upon the continent. I heard a story of what's happening in Nigeria. I'm told it has gotten better. That if you wanted to get a contract as a Nigerian in Nigeria, they were now having these white people, homeless white people, they would dust them up and give them a three-piece suit. And you just have a white man sitting next to you as you're negotiating a contract. You have a better chance of getting that contract than if you went by yourself. Your own brother and sister is going to discriminate against you. It goes back to the disease that I spoke about to begin with. We are still suffering from the legacy of colonization. We are still suffering from the shackles of the mind. It is your own brother who is doing that. So you're quite right. We must re-educate ourselves. Let's start with the colonial textbooks. You are quite right. We should not be having colonial textbooks in our schools. It's about time we rewrite our history. It's about time the hunted tell their story. And so wherein lies the problem. Why is it 60 years since independence in most African countries, we are still using colonial textbooks? It goes back to the disease. A minister of health can make that decision that I'm going to rewrite the textbook. And he commissions even the university to rewrite the textbooks, and it's done. But if the minister believes in what he's reading, how is he going to change? Tell me why the judges in Africa still wear those stupid white wigs. I mean, they were just some dumb things that we continue. They look ridiculous, you know? But there are things that come from colonial days that we still do. And it's people like me and you, my sister. So that's why we have to wake up. When you are an awoken judge, you walk in one day and then, Mr. President, I'm not wearing this stupid thing. It's 100 degrees in Africa and I'm supposed to sit in court all day with this stupid wig, you know? But I could go on of the dumb things that we are doing, and we are not correcting Africa. We are not speaking up for Africa because we are still asleep. We need to wake up. Once we wake up, guess what? I am going to say the contract goes to my brother first. It'll only go to the Chinese if I cannot find my brother. But the problem in Africa is, oh no, we'd sooner work with a white person than with a black person. We'd sooner work with the Chinese than my fellow brother. That is the problem. And so let's call a spade a spade. We are still asleep and we need to wake up. Those that you're going to run into when you go home, who are giving you the roadblocks, they are still asleep and they are suffering from the legacy of slavery and colonization. Why would they choose to give a contract to a white man? A white man comes through that door, oh, all the rules will melt away. They're willing to jump through hoops to help a white man. They're willing to jump through hoops to help a Chinese. How sick is that? How sick is that? A Chinaman will never jump through hoops for you. A white man will never jump through hoops for you. And yet you can't see it within yourself to say, I can't do that. Well, I mean, it is mind-boggling when you see the things that we do. I often say to my white friends, sometimes I wish I could be a fly on the wall when these white people are talking about how dumb we black people are. We do dumb things and they know it. Yes. And they get away with it. And we allow it. Wow. So at the end of the day, it's up to us. Until we wake up, nothing is going to change. The solution is for the brain drain that has occurred over the past 400 years, starting with the children who were sold into slavery, to the brain drain from those who left in search of greener pastures, running away from wars and famine. The end result is Africa's intellectual property, intellectual capacity, Africa's gold is in the diaspora. Some actually would like to refer to the African diaspora as Africa's gold. When we organize and we go home as a united front, guess what? No more can the heads of states give first choice, first right of refusal to the Chinese or the Europeans. Right now, the heads of states don't have a choice. They want development. They want electricity in the villages. They want running water in the villages. They want roads to go to the villages. But the capacity to build and deliver on that is not there in their countries. So the foreigners are coming in, they understand our needs, they realize the diaspora are still asleep. So they're coming in, and now with the approval of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the boundaries that have kept us from trading with each other as African countries are now being melted. The Chinese and the Europeans, they now have a strategy to say, you know what? Now we can register a company in one country and spread like wildfire throughout the continent. They have a strategy on how they're going to take over Africa. Guess who is not strategizing? The owners of the land, the children of Africa in the diaspora. What is needed is we have the Chinese on one side, we have the Europeans on the other side. There is a void. There is a space, there is a seat that is waiting for the diaspora to occupy, to fill in that intellectual capacity, to fill in that financial muscle, and we have it. It's one thing if we didn't have it. We have the financial capacity, we have the intellectual capacity. All we have to do is unite. Unite and fill that void space. But if we don't organize and come and fill that void, guess what? The Chinese are going to come and take it. The Europeans will continue to take it. That is the sad status of our reality. To say, how do we wake each other up? To say, while I may be mad at you, my brother, but when it comes to the family, we come together. Why can't we learn from the Jews? When the Jews realized that they were considered an outcast, they realized their strength was in their unity. So they came together, but they realized coming together alone is not enough. It's about economics. So they started pulling their monies together. There are only about 15 million Jews in the diaspora. And their claim is a small piece of land called Israel. And yet that small group controls the world.
Yes.
Because they have the financial economy. On the other hand, we are 1.7 billion Black people in the world. And we own the largest landmass in the world, over 30,000 square kilometers. And we are treated as the scum of the earth. If you can just look at those two comparisons, the Jews and their little bit of land and Africa, 15 million, and how many do we have in Black people? Why are we not taking over? Why aren't we ruling the world? It's because we cannot see it within ourselves to come together, to trust not only ourselves, but each other. How often has anyone tried to do something and fundraise and we support each other? What we don't realize, to take it to a personal level, if I don't trust my brother, guess what? My failure to trust my brother is a reflection of how I don't trust myself. I want to repeat that. My failure to trust my brother is a reflection of how I don't trust myself. And then guess what? Your own brother doesn't trust you either. And so his failure to trust me is a reflection of his own failure to trust himself. And then it becomes a domino effect.
Yes, so
we don't trust each other.
Yes.
Nothing gets done. And we continue to be stupid, and we continue to be exploited. We continue to be mistreated. And that's why we can just be killed and gunned down in broad daylight. And they know we are only going to make noise. And after a while, it stops until the next killing. Because we are poor people. We don't have financial, economic liberation. We don't have the financial muscle. In this world, let's face it, it's about the economics. Until we can control our own economy, nothing is going to change about Black people. So let's face it.
Excellency, but how do we get there? How do we get there? How do we overcome that distrust of each other, that mistrust amongst us, and be able to build that new dynamic that will project us into the future?
It's about education, my brother. Let me start by giving you how they got us to where we are today. We were systematically put to sleep. We were systematically brainwashed. We are so far off base that we don't even know what base is. Let me give you an example. And I use this woman, a patient of mine, who was talking to me very casually about how the husband comes home every day and he beats her up. At some point in the evening before he goes to bed, Every now and then he forgets that he hasn't beaten her up. He wakes up and he starts beating her up. So she was talking about how when he comes home, he wishes he could just beat her up so we can get it over with. And I'm listening to this woman describing a horrendous living situation, but she has normalized it. So I said, so when he's beating you up, what are you doing? She's talking about covering her face because she didn't want boobs to have bruises on her face, so her family would ask her what happened. Now this woman is even defending the abuser. We call that a battered woman. She didn't even know what norm was anymore. Abuse was part of a normal routine for her. We Black people, we are sort of like that. We are used to abuse. We give excuses for abuse. And though we don't realize that what we are accepting is not normal. You take, for example, how can a whole continent, $500 billion to France every year, and nobody was talking about it? A poor continent, they say. They're taking one little bitty country, we said nothing. There's so many abuses from the, look at the safe havens. The average African country, the major employers are the former companies that belong to the former colonizers. They employ close to 75% of the people in that country. They don't pay taxes. They send all their monies to safe havens. What? And we're talking trillions out of Africa. The illegal mining, the illegal logging, illegal fishing, illegal trading plants and wildlife. When you take all that together with the safe havens, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars are getting out of Africa. Why aren't we stopping it? Because when we go to the negotiating tables, you sit us in front of a white person, we start to shake. We are afraid of the white man. How did we get to be afraid of the white man? Very easy, my brother. When the missionaries came to Africa, they knew we were powerful people with our own well-established religious systems, educational systems. They knew they could not conquer us unless they put in a strategy to make us believe that what they bring to Africa is better and that what we have in Africa is not good. They also told us that there's a Jesus Christ who is white, that the angels were white, that the devil was black. They proceeded to tell us the angel was desirable and Jesus Christ. And then now, here's the kicker. We all know white people don't look like a white piece of paper. But they turn around and say, you see, we are white. We represent the angels. We represent Jesus Christ. Are you with me? Then they turn around and then they go to us Black people. They said the devil is black. The devil is to be hated. The devil does all the horrible things. And you wear black when you bury somebody. You wear white when you marry. You wear white when you baptize somebody. And then they turn around. I look at myself. They said, it doesn't matter how you look. You all are black. Mm-hmm. So now they say, come to church twice a week. And you kneel in front of a white Jesus. You kneel in front of some white angels. And every day you worship images that don't represent you. So no wonder little boys and girls, they want to grow up wanting to be like the white people because they are the ones that represent purity and everything beautiful and everything desirable. Have you ever wondered why we have never questioned that? Who has seen the devil? Who has seen the angels? Being a devil is based on deeds. What Officer Chauvin did when he murdered George Floyd, that's the personification of a devil. We have never questioned that. We have never questioned that. Jesus Christ was not white. Jesus Christ was a brown person, and we all know it. It's in the Bible. When Mary and Joseph were told to run away with Jesus Christ, they were told to go to Egypt. Because in Egypt, he was going to blend with people who look like him.
Exactly.
If he was white, they would have told them to go to Europe. But in Europe, he was going to stand out like a sore tooth. And so what we need is to teach our children.
Yeah, on your Excellency, on that line of thought, it is also from Africa that we had the greatest helper of Jesus Christ on the way to Calvary, the guy from Libya. That said, our focus, let's come back home We know all those things, but I know that you are reiterating them for better understanding. But how is the coming of the Africa Free Trade Area going to change the dynamic?
The African Free Trade Area is not going to change the dynamic until our mindset changes. What's needed is the diaspora to go home. We're going to open up the borders. 90% of the goods traded within Africa are going to be duty-free. But guess who's going to benefit from all those open borders? It's not going to be the children of Africa. If we do not organize, AFCFTA is going to see the ushering in of a complete takeover of the continent by the Chinese and the Europeans. Make no mistake about it, because we are not prepared to bring in the funding that is needed for the implementation of the Continental Free Trade Area. It is just that simple.
How do we get that funding? How do we get that funding? The African is generally poor. The African, as you already said, mistrust each other. How do we put the money together?
Well, that's why ADDI, African Diaspora Development Institute, we are going to go full force to educate and inform and wake up people. Remind people of our history. Many people don't realize they're suffering from the legacy of colonization. Many people don't realize they're suffering from the legacy of slavery. The simple fact that you cannot see it within you to say, let's all pull $1,000. 1 million people with $1,000, that's $1 billion, my brother. Right in this country, there are about 50 million Black people. Continental Africans, about 10 million. Just give me 1 million with $1,000. There are plenty of us who can do that. Now, give me 2 million. Now go to Europe. Give me 2 more. So 2.5 from here, 2.5 from Europe. That's 5 billion a year. We can take that 5 billion, leverage it. In 1 year, it can turn into 15, 20 billion. That's what they're doing. They come together. They put their finances together. They believe in each other. So what's needed is for us to wake up and not to find excuses as to why we can't. Yes, we can. We need to wake up. We need to understand that this time we must behave like the other races. Chinese will look out for the Chinese first. You'll never make it if you try to open a business in a Chinese neighborhood. You'll never make it if you try to open a business in an Indian neighborhood, in an Italian neighborhood, in an all-white neighborhood. It's only us Black people. If a Chinaman, if a white man was to open a business in our neighborhood, we will put our own Black brothers out of business and start patronizing the others. That is the disease. I feel your pain. I really do feel your pain. And I want you also to know that we're doing what we're doing because of you. We know this Africa of ours is messed up, and we're going to work together with your energy and your intelligence, together with our wisdom. I know we can come together to make Africa a better place. You are not alone. We feel your pain. I want you to know that we are with you. Let's walk this journey together. To the rest of our listeners, this is our information. We're absolutely with you. And if you ever want to talk, have the Reverend from now give you my number, because I owe it to you to understand. And so you never hesitate to call me and say, Mama, I'm confused about this. And you know your mama will give you an answer. Okay? I owe it to you. You are our youth, and we are responsible to you. And your pain is real. Your pain is real. I want you to know that. So for the rest of the viewers, thank you all for listening. Let's join hands. Let's remember that what puts us together, what joins us is our Blackness. What joins us is our Blackness. And so let's come together and speak with one voice. Let's go to ouraddi.org. Let's all sign up. When we have close to 1 million signatures, we can begin to go to the heads of states and say, before you give a contract to the Chinese, to the Europeans, your children from the diaspora are saying, we are ready to come home, and we will take those contracts. And the ones that will go to the Chinese and the Europeans are the ones that are going to be the ones we cannot fulfill. But until we come together and have a significant number that can truly fill these contracts, we are not yet in a position to complain about anything or any contracts going to Chinese and the Europeans, because those are the two options they have. We have to stand up and be present. And I can assure you, an organized African diaspora we will get the contracts and we will build the Africa that we want.